Hey everyone, it's Saoirse. It's been a while because there's been a lot of stressful stuff going on with the storm, and also I've just been rereading Harry Potter for comfort. So I'll get to a video about that eventually, but I'm on the third one right now, and I just didn't have like a book-specific video recently. So I thought, oh, I'll do a quick video where I talk about all the books that I have multiple editions of. That should be easy. Just get something out there. Uh, Once I started taking the books off the shelves, the shelves now look naked. You wouldn't believe how many books I have multiple editions of. I have a serious problem. I do not want help though. Let's just dig right into it and get into the psychology of why I do this and why it's okay. So the Brontes are probably the biggest offenders in these piles. We have Wuthering Heights here, and the funny thing is, neither one of these copies is the one that I read for school. I took a Bronte class in college. It was called Selected British Authors Bronte and Gaskell, and that is how I was finally introduced to the Brontes, heard of them, had never read them, and totally fell in love, especially with Charlotte. And I was renting my books at the time, so I had to return them at the end of the semester. So neither of these is even that copy, and yet I have two. And I think I got this one when I was much younger. Maybe they mentioned it in Twilight, and so I wanted to get it. That's embarrassing, but that might be why. And I think this is probably some from some used bookshop, maybe in the UK. It's hard to say. I mean, some of these I truly don't know where they came from. Jane Eyre, we have a lot of. Okay, we have my. This is the newer edition, my newer copy, the one that I actually read. And I just, when I get attached to a book, I like to buy every copy of it that I see because there are a lot of really cool editions being put out of, especially like classics. You know, the Brontes, there's so many different covers, so many different editions that you can find in the world now. And then I also like to get the old editions. So, first edition of Villette by Charlotte Bronte would be my dream. They exist for thousands of dollars. And that was originally published in 3 volumes. But yeah, I try to get as old as I possibly can. So, I have some books, quite a few books from the 1800s. But yes, that's the newer Jane Eyre. And then we have one right here. I have a lot of these that don't have a jacket, but they have a pretty spine. And that looks like it's from 1937. So, and then it's got like somebody's little book plate in there, which I always think is cool. And the reason I love to go to antique shops and vintage stores and get books is you just never know what you're going to find in there. A lot of people wrote in their books, and the art of cursive, specifically cursive of like the 19th and 20th centuries, it just seems to be gone. It's such a beautiful script, and I adore when I can find that in books. Here's another Jane Eyre. And this is probably just, I was going through a phase where if I saw a copy of a Bronte book and it was, a few bucks, why would I not get it? And you can find a lot of old books for very cheap. Not like very old, very good condition books, but ones like this where I can't find it, but it's probably like later than the 60s, I would guess. And when you find ones like that are just like pretty, you could just put them on the shelf, like use them to put plants on. I have a lot of stacks of books that look like this just around the house, set up in artful little ways to create vignettes. I put tiny lamps on top of them, I put candles on top of them. And one reason that I get multiple editions of different books is because then I don't feel so precious about it if something happens to a book. Let's say I have a candle on a book and the wax gets on it. I'm not going to freak out because I have 100 copies of that book. But I wouldn't do that with one that is, from like 1850 and pretty pristine. You guys know me. I'm a little more careful than that. I don't let anybody even borrow my books. All of my books that are not used, that were originally bought by me brand new and have only been read by me, are in perfect condition. I keep things in perfect condition. One of the other reasons I get multiple editions is because then it is possible to annotate, and I can write in my books and be like, cool, this is the one I write in. That's the one I just look at and like don't even breathe on. Here's Villette. Is this my original or is this, no, this is my original copy of Villette, which I read for college in that same Bronte class as Wuthering Heights, but I fell so in love, madly in love with Villette, that I guess I kept my copy that I got. Or maybe I just didn't rent this one. But this one has tabs in it, but I didn't write in it. Then when I went to grad school, and I specifically took a course because Villette was on the reading list, I did write in this one. Like, I even put Villette on the side there, and I have a million tabs, and I have, like, annotated the crap out of it. I think when I was doing that, I was specifically looking for things that were going to work for the essay I was writing, which compared the bell jar and Villette, talking about the main character as a wallflower in both stories. Here is a more modern edition of Villette. I like to look at how book designs change throughout the years, and how like they'll still use the deckled edges on modern books. I love that. It just gives it a nice touch, but like how the visual changes, and obviously on these really old ones, there wasn't like an image, you know, like we would have now, a drawing or picture, whatever. They're more just like handsome tones. And actually, I don't know if that's because they're all just missing their jackets and they did used to have something. But whenever you see somebody's fancy old library, the spines are always just, you know, kind of the same deal. And then like this edition of Villette, this one is quite different looking from that one. I wonder what year this is. I was gonna say it's probably the 60s. That's very like 60s, that look. Do you know what I mean? I obviously don't have like the words to. I haven't studied this in depth. It's just something I've observed, different book cover designs through the ages. Like if you look at the Nancy Drew books from back in the day, those have such a specific look. And if you look at the books that are being marketed towards children now, or towards young adults or independent readers, there is a very specific look. Do you remember when every single book looked like Twilight? All the books just had like an apple on the front cover. Here is The Professor by Charlotte Bronte. I absolutely love this edition. This one, see, here's an example where somebody wrote in it. This one, I want to say, is pretty old. Is this one of those that just refuses to put the date? I think it's 1900. It's one, ooh, so I should be more careful. It's one that has ads in it, and that ad mentions 1900. Usually when you like see the most recent year that's listed in a book, you can kind of expect that's the year that it's from. But I love that when they put ads in there. So there's The Professor, and then we also have this copy here that has Shirley and The Professor. And I think what I did was get this one first because I wanted to read both of those, and then over time I found that wonderful edition of The Professor, and I found this lovely copy of Shirley. And just look at that. Would you look at that? Can you read that? Edinburgh Upper Ward of Lancashire Association. It says Lancashire. I can't pronounce that. What's this? We have a postcard. I didn't know that little chap was in there. It says, I mean to be first to wish you a happy new year. I need to keep that out. And that's one of the things I do is I hoard postcards, and I refuse to ever send them to anybody because they're so cute. So yeah, I had this copy, which is the one that I actually read Shirley and the Professor in that wonderful summer 2016 when I was traveling in the UK and Europe and did my pilgrimage to Yorkshire to see Haworth, where the Brontes lived, to see their home. I made sure to finish all their works before I got there. Okay, let's see. We have... It took us that long just to get through the Brontes. We have Wild, and this is easy enough to explain. I have my original copy and my new copy, and that is just simply because I went to a writing workshop with Cheryl Strayed this year, and I got a signed one. So that is another reason. I should probably have made this cohesive and organized and said, here's the reasons why I do this. One of the reasons is I will get signed editions, and then of course I'll have 2 editions. That's just the way it goes. Same thing goes for this one, my original Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed, and my new one, and this is the signed one. I just think it's so cozy and nice to collect multiple editions of things that you love, because it just, I don't know, if I see that at somebody's house, I'll be like, oh, they love that thing. That thing really speaks to them and they love it so much and it gives them comfort or joy or something, to the point where they became like, is it crows or somebody will collect little shiny things, just kind of keep stuff and hoard things. And I'm not a hoarder by any means, thank goodness. I definitely, I'm a maximalist, but I'm extremely organized and type A, and my books are in specific places by category and all that. So this is the one thing that no, that's not true. I also collect mugs, but one of the few things where I'll really collect something and be like, it's okay. It's for my collection. Don't worry. This is not getting out of hand. It's a collection. I also have squished pennies. I used to collect keychains when I was a kid. That was a big thing. Anyway, this one's a totally different reason. I got this book, Little Weirds by Jenny Slate, which ended up being one of my favorite books. And I'm actually going to see her, hopefully, I'm going to see her speak in Boston later this month about her new book. And I loved this book so much, but they sent me this copy from Amazon that was just destroyed. It looked like somebody had just stomped all over it. And so I had them send me a new one, and you're supposed to send the old one back to get your money back. And I ended up loving the book so freaking much that I was like, I'm just going to keep both copies and swallow the cost. And so I let my mom borrow the beat up one, and she put all her tabs in it. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. That should be my copy that I let people borrow, and they can tab it up, and I can see which things resonated with them, because that's one of those books where I just feel like my soul is on the page. So it's cool to see what other people see in my soul. Okay, we have so many copies of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I decided this is one of those books where I am going to get a copy whenever I travel and it's in a different language or something. And actually I think I've only done this with 2 books, but so this is my original, pre-ordered, 2007 I believe it was, and I was actually in the UK when this book came out, so I landed in London, I think, and the 7th book came out. Can you imagine how freaked out I was trying to stay away from all the spoilers in Harry Potter mania, in the heart of Harry Potter land, but I was on this 3-week trip with my mom and had to wait till I got home to read the book. So this is my very original copy. I remember when I got home just sitting down and pretty much locking myself in my room for, 2 days, however long it took me to read it. Was so terrified of spoilers. And then I made sure to get copies wherever I went, so I got this one in Spanish in Mexico City at a sort of pop-up market on the street. Harry Potter y las reliquias de la muerte. I don't know how to say that word. Reliquias. I don't know. The way it translates in other languages seems to be the relics of death. I have the British copy, so actually when I was on that trip to the UK and the book came out, I bought this. Because how exciting was it to be there on the day it came out. The British illustrations are so freaking weird. If you're used to the American ones, I'm just like, what is happening here? But yeah, I got that and held on to it and was just like, I'm not going to open you. I'm not going to look in you. Don't even let me, because if you flip to a page and find out what happens, oh my god. And then we have when I went to, I think this is when I went to France for the first time, Harry Potter et les reliques de la mort, relics of death, I guess. So there's your French one. French books, for some reason, have the letters going the opposite way on the spine, which makes me nutso when I put it on the shelf. But there you have it, Harry Potter in French. What else do we have here? We have, okay, my original copy of Les Miserables, and this was abridged, which really grinds my gears. It's the one that we read for high school. So it was assigned reading for high school, but they're like, get the abridged version, because you kids can't handle it. So I was so mad reading it, knowing like, this isn't all of it, because I have issues, and so I eventually, like, I tried so freaking hard to find an edition of Les Mis that is unabridged and beautiful, and it's so difficult because it is a very big, long book, and therefore they don't do a lot of like pretty editions of it unabridged. And I don't know if I'm 100% sure that this one is, but I was told by sources that this one's unabridged. And it is so pretty. It's the Barnes & Noble edition. It is big and fat. So if I am to read it again, which, God, now it's been 15 years, I guess, since I read the unabridged one. If I were to read it again, I suppose I'd read that one. I intend to do these things, but, you know, then they just pile up and I never get to them. Okay, then we have Anne of Green Gables. I think this is the one I actually read, the edition that I read, the paperback, and I got that in New York City when I was at the height of my obsession with Anne of Green Gables because I was watching Anne with an E, and I just fell in love with that show. So I immediately was like, okay, this is one of the books where I'm going to go ahead and get all the beautiful editions that I can, because the artistry of book binding is just so delicious to me. So I got this one as well. Where was this from? This might have been from New York too. I'm not even sure. Not even sure, but it's pretty. And then I think this one's just from my local Barnes & Noble. And hello! Something fell out of there. And would you look at that? It is a MegaCon pass. Because this is the book that I used. This is the edition that was in my little basket when I was cosplaying Anne of Green Gables at MegaCon. So, special memories there. And see, I had all these editions to choose from. Which one's going to look the nicest in my basket? And it was that one. Okay, we have, you would think that I have many copies of Lord of the Rings, but you would be wrong, which is just crazy, but I only have the movie cover, like the movie tie-in editions from, 2002 or whenever it was. And those are the ones that I carried around with me all the time to school and everything. And I have to show you this. Luckily it's right here. But I took this one recently to Tampa Bay Comic-Con to meet Elijah Wood and showed him this, and he was so sweet. And he signed it for me. I said, this is the edition that I carried around in 3rd grade every single day, and I was not reading it. I was just pretending to. Didn't actually read it till I was 22. But those are my copies of Lord of the Rings. I always covet really fancy ones. I honestly think I'm just holding out forever to get the right ones, like which are going to be the editions that really light my soul on fire. And also it's a lot of pressure because when I reread Lord of the Rings, which will probably be at the 10-year mark in a couple years, like I want to read the new editions that I get. So I love this one very handsome set. You've probably seen it. That's really tiny, tiny books. My friend Olivia has it, and the print is just microscopic. but they're so cute and they come in this little box. But okay, I only have multiple editions of The Hobbit, and I'm like, am I missing something? I have the original, which I think was my dad's, and then the movie tie-in, and I don't even really remember getting that one. I don't think that's the one I read. I think I would have read this one. And then I also listened to the book on tape. And when I say on tape, I don't mean Audible. I mean literally cassette tapes in a cassette player. Okay, we have these. I actually got these ones first. Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility, and Emma. And these little cuties are called Flipback books, and I'm absolutely obsessed with them. They don't make many of these. I'm pretty sure they're all out of print now. I don't think that this company is still doing this, and it's such a shame because it was a brilliant idea. I mean, the pages are like Bible thin. They're so... Listen to that. Listen to that. I can't get enough of it. For somebody who's very into like tactile things and like ASMR things, these little copies just really get me going. And also I found that I was reading it so fast because you're like, oh, the pages are so short and small and tiny and I can just keep going, and you don't realize, oh my god, maybe the pages are small, but there are almost 800 of them. You just don't feel it happening because they're just so tiny. But then I did get these editions of Sense and Sensibility and Emma because I went on this kick where all of the Barnes & Noble classics were $5, and I was like, cool, I'm going to buy all of them. So I got all of Jane Austen's books in these editions. And sadly, I'm not really a Jane Austen fan. I'm so sorry. I keep trying. I only have I have Persuasion and Mansfield Park left. I've read all of her other books, and so far, I don't know. Maybe I think I liked Sense and Sensibility and Emma better than I liked Pride and Prejudice and Northanger Abbey. I'll say that. I have here the Bell Jar. This is my original copy, and I don't even think this was mine. A lot of my books came to me from, you know, hand-me-downs from my mom and dad and sister and just random places. So this is the one that I first read, and I can't even tell you when I first read the Bell Jar, which is really strange. I want to say that I was at the beginning of my 20s, but I don't know. But then the same course in grad school where I took it because Villette was in it, I took it because the Bell Jar was in it. So this is my new copy of the Bell Jar, which is tabbed and annotated to heck. Now it's not gonna, like, doesn't look like I've written anything. I swear I wrote in this book, here, it says paranoia. So yeah, I used this one for my essay, so I didn't feel bad about underlining a bunch of stuff. And yeah, I thought that this cover is kind of cool. Really demonstrates like the chaos in her mind. There was some quote somewhere. I don't know. There was some quote on one copy of the Bell Jar. Maybe it's not even one that I own, where it just made it sound like so facile and ridiculous, and I was like, that's not the message of the Bell Jar. This one has this lovely photo of Sylvia Plath. So you just get different things with different editions, so I can't stop. I can't stop. Okay, this one is very, very important to me. I said earlier that I get 2 books in multiple languages. That's Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and it is this one, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. So this and Villette are my favorite books ever. And, you know, if we're talking about classics, I'll say Villette's my favorite. If we're talking about modern classics, Perks of Being a Wallflower is my favorite book. And look at that, my little carpet bookmark is in there because I was desperately trying to read this in French last year and using this as my, you know, translated copy, the original. This is the one that when I met Stephen Chbosky, he signed. So that is extremely precious to me. This is my original edition, which again wasn't, I think I got it hand-me-down. And then I got the French when I first went to France, Le Monde de Charlie. That, oh, we got tabs in there. Oh, again, that's because I was reading this in French last year. So this is Charlie's World. I always thought, it drives me crazy when they don't really make an effort to translate a title, and I understand Perks of Being a Wallflower is a very hard thing to translate into other languages, but they always just make it Charlie's World, and that annoys me. What was I going to say? Yes, so I thought that I was good enough at French to read a book that uses pretty simple language. It was so freaking hard for me. I made it to page 36, it looks like. And it was just, constantly going to look at the English one, and it got so annoying. Then we have which one would I have gotten next? I'm not sure, but this is the Spanish one that I also got in Mexico City. Oh, no, this doesn't say Charlie's World. Las ventajas de ser, and how do you say invisible in Spanish? Invisible? Does that mean, like, the perks of being invisible? Pretty much, I would guess. I'm trying to learn some Spanish. But, yeah, interesting. I thought it was also Charlie's World, but it's not. But yeah, those are both the movie tie-in covers. Then, okay, this is all making sense to me now. Then this is a copy I got from Barnes & Noble, where they sometimes do this thing where the authors have pre-signed books and you can buy them, and they're often hardcovers. So I got this one that was already signed. This was before I met him. And I was like, of course I have to get a signed edition, so... And then, when I went to meet him in London, it was because he was touring for his new book, Invisible Monsters, that's Chuck Palahniuk, Imaginary Friend. And also talking about the 20th anniversary of Perks of Being a Wallflower. So I got the 20th anniversary copy, and he signed that one too, and he said, here's to your writing. And I talk about this experience in my video about Perks of Being a Wallflower, but just real quick, Stephen Chbosky was incredible. He kind of clocked a few of us at the beginning, and it was in this like pretty intimate church setting, not a ton of people, but he like clocked a few of us who were talking about how we were writers, and we spoke to him a little bit at the table during the signing, and he said, just wait after like everybody leaves when the event is over, and I want to talk to you guys. And he came over and spoke to a group of like 5 of us and said, all right, here it is. And I'm like, I don't want to be rude and take out my phone and write down everything he's saying while he's saying it, so my brain's like, remember everything he says. And he just laid out, like, here is how you become successful as a writer. Like, here's the way to do it. And it was such great advice, and the fact that he took the time to do that, and the fact that he was incredibly genuine, and you could tell the whole time that he was having a wonderful time on this tour, and really appreciated people still talking about this novel from 20 years ago. He was not sick of it. He wasn't like one of those bands that's like, we're not going to play the hit, we're so sick of playing the hit, go home and listen to it on your headphones. That's what Broken Social Scene said during their show. He wasn't like that. He was just so genuinely happy to talk about that and the new book and whatever any of his fans wanted to talk about, and he was so kind and giving of his time. So really good memory with that one, like running through the streets of London to this event and then like scurrying around afterward. Good stuff. And then I also got, oh dear, I'm like, which one's which? I think this is the British one. Yeah, he signed this one too, Imaginary Friend. He signed that one. So yeah, well, I was living in Scotland at the time when this came out, so I got the British edition. And of course, I told my mom, could you grab me the American edition back home, and I'll get that when I come back. So this is the American edition. I just love to see different editions from different countries. I think it is so fun. And here's another one like that, where I read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and just loved it so much. And I think that's what kind of sparked my obsession with Sweden. Got very into Sweden and Swedish music, and I was just stoked on Sweden, so I said I gotta go there one day, and I did with my mom in 2016, and we went to Stockholm and went to a bookstore, and I found a copy of that book in the original Swedish. Now you'll notice the title's really tiny right here. Men som hatar kvinnor, excuse my accent, but it means men who hate women. And I've probably mentioned this a million times. It drives me nuts that they changed the title to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. These do not look like they have anything to do with each other. And for a long, long time, while this was super popular, I refused to read it because I thought it sounded so dumb. If it had been the original title, I don't think I would have thought that. So the fact that they took that title and softened it for the American audience or the English-speaking audience really drove me nuts, because the thing that Stieg Larsson was trying to get across was we have a big old problem on our hands, which is that men hate women and so they kill them. And you know, he did a phenomenal thing with this series. Rest in peace. Just, yeah, one of those things that grinds my gears when it comes to translations. I'm also super interested, because I'm reading Harry Potter right now again. Every time I reread Harry Potter, which I think it's been like a decade since the last time, I always say, oh, next time I'll read the original British versions, because I want to see what weird British stuff they took out. Things like, you know, saying fringe instead of bangs. Like when they translated it to the American audience, they changed all those things because we wouldn't understand, which is so insulting. And also, way to get kids to not learn anything. Like, if it had said fringe instead of bangs, then we would have been like, Mommy, what does fringe mean? Like, why does it say he's moving his fringe? What is that? And Mommy would be like, it's bangs. That is what they call bangs over in the UK, little Johnny. And we would have learned something, but instead they're like, no, American kids stupid. Let's change all the words. Okay, I'm on a tirade right now. So here's my original Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Super beat up, very old. This is all the books in the series. And I don't know where my copy of Hitchhiker is, which is so strange, but I have all the books, very, very old, separate. So Restaurant at the End of the Universe, and Life, the Universe, and Everything, and So Long, Thanks for All the Fish, and this one's even lovingly taped up. And then, because I like to get nice, pretty, fancy new editions, here is my new edition, The Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I love this back. Don't panic! Is that it? Oh, see, this one's a bummer because I got out The Catcher in the Rye. This is my new copy that I got in North Carolina, and I can't find my original copy, which is actually my mom's original copy from 700 years ago. Can't find it, don't know where that is, but the cover's falling off. It is very elderly. So I'm completely surrounded by about 97,000 books, and I'm gonna have to put them all away. But this was worth it because it was actually really fun. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna, like, you know, not really try, and I'll just smash some books together and be like, here's a video. But this was really fun. And a nice trip down memory lane. And uh-oh, speaking of memory lane, hello! This is one of these fun things I do. I press flowers in books, and then I forget that I've done it. Oh, you're gonna love this. Look at that. Oh, have a go at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Now that would be from Scotland, somewhere. Probably Holyrood Park. Yeah, I like to use these big fat books, and I have a couple pieces of paper in here that I've used to press the flowers. Isn't that lovely? I should really, like, make some art out of these things, but I'd have to go through every single book in my house and find all the books that I've done this with, because I have the worst memory ever. It's actually quite a problem, and it's not funny, but I don't, the second I press a flower in a book, it's gone. I don't remember that I've done it. But no, I'm saying that, and I remember I did in fact press a leaf from Stockholm, Sweden, in my copy of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo from Sweden. How cool is that? That did just come to me, I remember that. And I was there around autumn, so a nice little autumn leaf from Sweden for you to finish the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope y'all are still out there watching, even though I like to take a good month between videos lately, apparently. I'm just like, my motivation is gone. So, but I just got this new app where it's basically a Tamagotchi where you take care of a tiny bird, and like if you don't complete your goals, I don't want to know what's gonna happen to her. So I'm keeping her alive and happy and like giving her little tickles by doing all my goals. So that has got me feeling like embarrassingly motivated. At least in the realm of like self-care. I haven't quite gotten to the point of like productive goals, but I am doing things like flossing. Cannot recommend enough. Okay, thank you for watching. See you all next time. Until then, happy reading and happy October.